Hey girl, I'm Jamie Constantine. I'm a wife, mom of 2 teenage boys, and a multi-passionate female entrepreneur. I have a vision of a world of confident women who love themselves wholeheartedly. This is my new happy place, and I hope that it becomes yours too. So toss your hair up in that messy bun, grab your cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Welcome to the Happy Girl Podcast. Looking for a little retail therapy and want to shop from the comfort of your own home? Head on over to happygirlpodcast.com, click on our sponsors, and check out None of Your Business Boutique. Enter discount code HAPPYGIRL to save $5 off your purchase. Hi, ladies. Welcome back to another episode of the Happy Girl Podcast. I am your host, Jamie Constantine, and we are in beautiful, sunny Newport Richey, Florida today, recording in the pod. Well, this is a pod. It's a sweet pod. We are recording in the Called podcast studio right here in Newport Richey, and we have a really amazing guest with us today. We have Laura Henderson here. Laura Henderson is the survivor representative with Pasco County Commission on Human Trafficking, and she's also the outreach assistant with Created Women. Laura Henderson is a speaker and advocate, and I'm so grateful, Laura, to have you here on the Happy Girl Podcast today. What we're going to discuss and just chat about is really bringing awareness to human trafficking. We're going to go over a few little topics and share some insight with our listeners. So I would love for you to introduce yourself. And before you dive into a little about yourself, one of the first things I love asking my guests is, do you drink coffee? And if so, what is your favorite cup of coffee?
I absolutely love coffee, and my go-to is Starbucks, but I don't know if you're ready for that order. This is pretty long.
Well, okay. So ladies, get out your notepad. If you're not driving or anything like that, if you can write this down, or you could always come back and listen to the replay because I love a good coffee order. So take it away.
So it's a grande nitro cold brew in a venti cup, 2 shots of espresso,
Okay.
coconut milk, 4 Splendas, sugar-free vanilla syrup.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
But anytime I go with someone, I take someone with me, they're like, oh my gosh, that's so much.
There's got to be a special, like if there's a formula for it, and then call it a special name. Like it could be called Laura's Latte.
Yes.
And then they'll already know the formula for it. So if you have your special Starbucks that you go to, maybe you can like say, hey, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a special name, hashtag it all over the place, and people will be asking for that specific coffee, and it'd just be so much easier. But I love that. That sounds really good. I love the nitro cold brews. Yeah. Those are amazing.
I always get it in a venti cup just because I'm typically on the go.
Yeah.
Having that extra room is...
I hear you. And a little extra espresso too. That definitely helps for sure. Girl after my own heart. Okay, I love that. That's amazing. So again, I am so thankful to have you here with us, Laura, and I can't wait for you to share with our listeners some of the things that we can do as a community to bring awareness. And today we're going to talk a little bit about survivors in human trafficking. And I would love for you to tell us a little more about yourself, and then we'll dive into some of the really important topics that we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, okay. So I was born and raised in North Carolina. I've been here in Florida for 3 years now. I grew up in foster care until I was 13. Then I was adopted. Those parents split by the time I was 16. So it's just basically, I say that because all of my life I've never had structure or stability or felt wanted or just a part of anything. So when I was 24, my adopted father had taken his own life. And so that I just kind of checked out, the one person I felt like had been there for me was now gone. So, I ended up turning back to drugs and alcohol, which led me to which in my experience for my story, that's what led me to being a target and vulnerable in the hands of traffickers.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. For survivors or for people who have become a part of the human trafficking process, a lot of people's stories are different. There's several different dynamics. I understand that goes into that, and it's no cookie cutter thing, right? And I think one of the things that is very helpful for our listeners to hear from you is, the fact that you have your story. So there's a way that you were, your childhood, where that led you to as far as being trafficked. And I think the perception that most people have might be a little different than what is truly reality. And like, I know there's a lot happening, recently, which is being shared a lot with, let's say, like coming over the borders, like from Mexico, you hear that most recently, like trafficking in that sense. And then there's ways where people, we think, okay, it is a kidnapping, or there's so many different dynamics and not to say that those are not true. But I would love for you to touch base based on your experience or what you've gone through and what you've learned and know working with other survivors as well with Pasco County Commission on Human Trafficking and with Created Women. What can you help us understand? What can our listeners learn as far as like some of the myths versus the reality of what someone who is being trafficked is identified I mean, how they identify, because I think we had discussed before, right? People that are in human trafficking that are, I guess, victims at the time don't realize that they are being trafficked. And I think that that is a big thing. Can you touch on that for us?
Yeah, that's a big misconception. I can say for myself, I didn't know I was a victim. I got out of it 4 years ago. It took me a good year to even get sober after that, just because I was in such denial. Um, One, I didn't know what human trafficking was. Two, I didn't know it had happened to me. Um, and like you said, it's not being shoved in a white van or caged up. Although there are chains, but they're hidden chains. They're mental, emotional chains. I know for me, I wasn't picked up. I literally was pumping gas one day and another guy was pumping gas. And I was in the middle of my addiction. I was looking for another person to supply me with those needs. And that's how it started. It started with building trust, a friendship. Then gifts were involved and dinners and trips and stuff like that. And a lot of times with other people that I've worked with, other survivors, it's family members, it's boyfriends. It never starts out as they don't just jump into this, it's part of the grooming process is mainly building trust. And it's part of that manipulation. um
Okay, so you're touching on the grooming process, and I want to let our listeners know right now that I mean personally for myself, because I am still learning a lot about human trafficking, and like I'm doing my best to understand a lot about it, a lot about victims, a lot about survivors. And my perception was thinking, even when I got started with Pasco County Commission on Human Trafficking, when I first spoke to Leanna, that was where I started diving in and I started learning. And I was so not proud, but I was like, okay, I'm on this mission, right? And I feel like I can make a difference somehow. Mentally, I was kind of on the lookout. Like all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to see, like, is there somebody that I can help? I was more aware and more intentional about the people around me and trying to look for clues and trying to be like, while I'm out and about, am I going to see a young girl? Or I wasn't even thinking like teenage. I was thinking like little girl. I don't know. I was like, what can I see? Can I find somebody? And if I make eye contact with them, will they look at me and like whisper for help or ask for help? But like you're saying, a lot of people that are in human trafficking don't realize that. So if there was someone that was out there that was on a mission to help human trafficking, they wouldn't come across somebody that's necessarily going to like look at them and ask them for help, right?
Right.
Okay.
And a lot of times, fear is another one of those chains, those those invisible chains that hold a lot of victims back. And a lot of times you can see that, but if you're not looking for it, you won't see it. I mean, it is right in front of our faces, whether it's in the grocery stores or in the mall.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when it comes to like younger, there's girls, there's boys, there's men, there's women, but you see like a younger girl with an older man and she's like always right there with him or can't speak for herself without, referring to him or,
Right.
just things like that, like things that might make you turn your head, but to the average person that doesn't have the proper education and awareness training on this issue, they're just going to maybe tilt their head and keep walking.
Right.
But there's ways to report it, you know, through um, through the hotlines, the national hotlines, which I have those numbers and I'm happy to share those too. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
it's right in front of our faces.
And you talked about the grooming process. So for you, you you were like you're saying sometimes it's family members, it's boyfriends, it's people that you form relationships with or they work to form a relationship with you. Can you touch on that relationship or that grooming process? Number one, so if anyone is listening, they can be aware and understand that this is the process that happens. And then number two, if anyone has a friend or knows of someone that just might be like, oh, I met this person and blah, blah, blah. And it's a great sign that there may be something, and then they could possibly get in touch with the hotline. But can you touch on that grooming process and really how that works in a nutshell?
Um, well, as I shared before, it just starts with. I'll share a story that was shared with me. Um, this girl went with a group of her friends to the mall, and there was a trafficker that was just a lot of times they'll go to these places that you least expect them to go, and they'll just hang out and they'll watch and wait, and they'll find that's what they do is they watch and wait and they find your vulnerabilities. Um and this girl was with her friends and this guy just could spot out of all the other girls she was with, he was able to spot her and her weaknesses, and I think like he had navigated up ahead of her and got in a way to where he tripped and like she ran into him and then he apologized and let me buy you a drink in the food court, da, 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 and they started to start a relationship, they started going out and building that trust, and then he started to exploit her through his friends. Well, you're with me, I'm going to hook you up with so and so, and then for there. But there's also much more to human trafficking than just the sex trafficking
Hmm.
industry. There's the labor trafficking with jobs and stuff too. Someone that um, doesn't maybe get out much, that maybe lives where they work, or doesn't get to take home much money. They're working at a high paying job, but the way they dress doesn't um, go along with what like where they work. When they're out of work, and just stuff like that. So it's not always, you know. I think you mentioned earlier about coming in from one country to the next and stuff
Hmm.
like that. But that does happen with a lot with labor trafficking and stuff like that. But as far as more about the, I think that ties up with the
Yeah.
grooming process too, because it just depends on which avenue they're taking, really. Um, yeah, I don't. best way for me to sum that up is just those relationships that are built. Um, I know there was times where we would go on like shopping trips to the mall and stuff like that. It was just enough to keep you there. But then on the other hand, you want to get away so bad, but you have nowhere to go. You because of what they've done to you mentally, emotionally, like you're just you're trapped. And it's not the necessarily physical sense.
Yes. And I actually love how you talk about the chains, those invisible chains. That is such a good visual to give people because it's that's the kind of stuff that can really hold you back and make it hard to break free, right?
Hmm.
And you I love that is it an analogy? Is that what they call it? I love the way that you use that to create that vision of the mindset for survivors or for victims.
And I'll add too, so, in the world we live in today, we live in a very digital world. Everything's on social media.
Mhm.
That's really come to the light on how traffickers really utilize social media platforms and stuff like that. So, that's another part of the grooming process. They're able to hide behind a phone or an app and just really um, manipulate their way into this person's life. They learn about their family and their friends without them even knowing it. And then they learn what they like, what their favorite color is, stuff like that. Just the most simple things that we don't think, or even the young people or potential victims, they don't think that that's very harmful, giving out these little bits of information about
Right.
them personally.
Right.
And then they start to open up. Yeah, I'm having problems at home or in school and da da da. And so that's like the trafficker's way into be- beginning that grooming process. The average person wouldn't think that that's a part of the grooming process, but it really is.
Yeah, they're
That.
developing that relationship, that trust, right? Somebody that's going to listen and it's so easy to just communicate through messaging and texting, there's no emotion face to face, but you get that feeling of whatever it is that's satisfying you emotionally at that time and you think you're having fun just building that relationship with somebody. And I think as kids or as parents talking to your kids, we always like, okay, if you're going to be on a game or if you're going to be on social media, don't tell them where you live, right? That's like, I feel like that's the biggest thing. Don't tell them where you live. But it's so much more than that. Like you're saying, it's all those little things and it lets them know, hey, somebody's interested in my interests, somebody's interested in my hobbies, and somebody's gonna listen to me. That's not my parent or somebody that doesn't, that I don't want to talk to. And it makes it so easy for them to communicate that way. So that is a great way to bring awareness in that sense. Now you did mention um where you're at now, you're an outreach advocate or an outreach assistant with Created Women. And then you're a survivor representative for Pasco County Commission on Human Trafficking. And your everything that you've gone through has led you up to this point to be able to help survivors or help the community spread awareness. And it's such a moving puzzle, a moving piece that I would just love to know um, what impact, because if you had a role model such as yourself when you were going through it, what does that mean to you? How did that get you to this point? And what does it mean for you to be that advocate for survivors?
Well, it meant, and it means everything to me. Um, because I'm also in recovery. I just celebrated over 3 years of sobriety. So we say in recovery, you can't keep what you have unless you give it away. So it's kind of, just life itself has been given to me, and I find great joy in giving it back to others. Just being that person that they can turn to, even if it's just that. or being that person that one of my other great passions is doing outreach, club outreach. We do club outreach, strip club outreach, street outreach. We go into the brothels. We go in, we really go out. Like that's what Created was actually built on. And I just love going out there, meeting the women where they are. And I actually love getting asked, why are you even here? And then that just opens the door for me to tell them like some of my story. And then they're just like, I can't believe, you know, you would come in here to just to love on us is and just to see them. And those that we see time and time again, it's just seeing their faces light up, whether it's in the clubs or the streets or in our drop-in center at our main location, which is also something I do is a mobile drop-in operation where I go out to Pasco and different counties and throughout our county, um, because it we also see in recovery it's one addict helping another is without parallel. It's just like one survivor helping another. Nothing compares to it, you know? But we all need each other, whether it's the mental health, aspect or the physical, the spiritual, whatever it is, we all have a part to play in it. Whether it is advocacy, whether you have experience like mine or not, we can all be an advocate for, what is put on our heart to go out there and speak out against. Um, so it's definitely an honor for me to be able to take, someone that is still in that darkness and see the light and help them see the light it's in them. It's in all of us. It's just been buried deep for so long, and being able to help someone pull that out, it's almost indescribable. It's it just brings so much joy to me. Um, then that gives me purpose. That's what gives me purpose. I never, all my life, I can look back and until I got out of that life, even before I got in that life, I had a semi successful career as a CNA, working pediatric home health for a little over 3 years. I felt like I was, making a difference in this world, but I just didn't feel like that was quite my purpose. I knew I always wanted to help others, but little did I know I would have to go through a few things in life to really, and I don't question why I went through what I went through anymore, that I question how can I use that to help others. Um, yeah. Sorry. It's just like I have like it's joyful tears, that I get to do this, that I did go through that and I found purpose in it. It's who would have thought, you know?
As women, we rarely put ourselves first. Isn't it time to pamper yourself? I want to tell you about Bella Body Contouring Spa, an unrivaled health spa located in Trinity, Florida. Bella Body Contouring offers an exclusive collection of non-invasive body contouring services that will help you achieve your body contouring goals. Through advanced techniques and the use of FDA-approved technology, their team of technicians delivers high-end results at the level care you need. Their services are designed to tighten, smooth, reduce, and renew your skin so you can get back to life feeling your best. Be bold, feel free, and beautiful, and leave confident. Mention this ad and take 10% off any service. I think that's so admirable. And I really do appreciate you, Laura, sharing that with us and, really opening up in that aspect. I love the fact that you feel that you are walking in your purpose. And a lot of people don't find that. A lot of people don't realize their value or their worth. And I think there's so much comfort knowing that you are here and honestly that it sparks something for you and it brings you joy to be able to do that and you're in it, right? Um I think that's absolutely amazing. And that's one of the things that we have to do, just like you were saying, it takes working together. It takes that love and support from each other. We can't all do it on our own. And it definitely helps to have other people in our arena, people that when we can't do it for ourselves, that they're going to be there to help us or just to do whatever they can. And I love that you love doing what you're doing now. It's extremely comforting to know that. So thank you so much for doing that. And I mean, thank you again for being here on the Happy Girl podcast to be able to share that insight with us as well. Um, I would love for you to tell our tell our listeners, or I know there's a lot and I feel like we could talk about this stuff so much, right?
Right.
Um, but if there's something that our listeners can take away today, what would one of your biggest things be that you would like to share, or anything that you would want our listeners to kind of go away with or hold on to from listening to this episode with you?
Mm. I would say to get involved in one way or the other, whether it's with your local commission on human trafficking or a local church that's involved. Really learning as much as you can, whether you want to get involved or not. Just doing your research, getting connected with a local organization that does, you know, like with Created, we're majority direct services organization. Yes, we do advocacy, we do outreach, um, we do residential programs and all that. But just to know that, yeah, this evil world of human trafficking exists out there, but there's also hope, through the survivors, that, we do exist, and we're here, and we do have a voice. And that's another reason I speak out so much, because I want to encourage those that maybe don't quite have a voice. Whether you've been a victim or not, we've all been through some trauma.
Mhm.
We've all been through something. Just being a voice, for the voiceless, um, and just giving back, serving, whatever. Um, there's just so many ways, um, and just being aware.
Yeah, I think that's really great, and it's that educational process too, and that's what definitely helps in order to move forward. So bringing awareness, getting educated, getting the knowledge, and there's so much information, there's so much tools, there's so much resources that are out there. But if you can really hone in and get it from, the right sources and get the right information, so you're not being misled in any way, and any way that anybody can get involved. It doesn't have to be big. I think education is such a big factor in it. And then finding out the ways by getting in touch with Pasco County Commission on Human Trafficking or the resources through Created Women and finding how they can be involved. I think that's a really great thing. And yeah, it really takes a community. I think a lot of people talk about that a lot. But one person can make the biggest difference in the world. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Um, I would love for you. Oh yeah, go
No, I
ahead.
would say too,
Yeah.
inviting whether it's Created or Pasco Commission, or your local organization, inviting them to come to your church or to your organization or to your place of business, just inviting them in to talk about what they do and what they see. And a lot of times, that's what I love about both of the organizations I'm involved with, is they have a survivor seat at the table. So a lot of times when one goes speak, they have a survivor speaker there too. So inviting us in to speak and to share with your community or your organization, that's another way to get involved. Maybe you don't want to go out on an outreach, but you could help put a outreach bag together, or like I said, invite us in. Just there's so many ways. Just getting connected too
Yeah.
is the key to that education and awareness.
Yeah, and opening up those opportunities. I really like that you touched on that too, because I don't think there might be people that aren't aware that that's even a possibility or they've never really contemplated that or thought about that. So, opening up those opportunities to have people come in to businesses, to and like I mean schools, anything, right? Any place where you can get people together, open that up. That's really good that you touched on that too. So, I really appreciate that. And I would love for you to share contact information or any way that they can find out the resources that you want to share with us today. And before we do that, I would love to hear what sparks happiness for you, Laura.
Ah, well, as I shared before, just sparking the happiness in others. Um, just going out there and meeting the women where they're at. Um, and I get out there and I live like my life the way I want other people to get out there and live theirs. I do a lot of sporting stuff and stuff like that, and I do that in a way that is to encourage other people to get out there and live life because again, like all my life, I just never really knew what it was like to live. And now, like each day, I live it as if this is what I have. And, the women that I work with directly with my organization is, just having some conversations with them or taking them for some coffee or, even the women that come into our drop in center, just having a conversation with them. And then just you could just tell in the way that their demeanor kind of changes and they're like their walls come down and they open up. That to me is just beyond joyful. It seems so simple to some, but it means the world to me because I know what it's like to have those walls and not trust anybody.
I think that's beautiful. And I do believe I can't wait to continue following along with you in, any way that I can be part of this process with you as well. I believe that everything that you're doing is so contagious and I can't wait to see more. And really, I'm so thankful to be part of this journey with you and part of your story as well. So please, Laura, share with us some of the ways that our listeners can find the resources or tools or any way that you want to share your contact or the organization's contact information.
Yeah, so for getting involved with Created or learning more about what we do, um, you can go to createdwomen.com and um, there's all different tabs that kind of tell you about more about who we are and how to contact us, how to volunteer. We do volunteer trainings over Zoom once a month. And we have different events that we invite volunteers to do to, not just, we don't want volunteers to feel like they're constantly serving and giving, but we also offer opportunities. Like this month, we have each month we have what's called Oasis. It's like a community event for residents, former residents, graduates, and volunteers. Like this month, we're having a chili cook-off, and
That sounds yummy.
so there's like fun things. There is some fun that we have, within this world,
Of course.
and then there's the our helpline. So women that do need our help, or maybe you come across a woman that needs our help, we have a 24/7 helpline. It's 813-445-0884. That's also on our website. There's the National Human Trafficking Hotline. If you do suspect or you see something, say something. And especially that's what that number is there for. It's a 1-888-373-7888. Um, and you can call that number to make reports, or if someone needed help, they could call that number as well. And then as far as the Pasco Commission on Human Trafficking, If you just type that into your Google search bar, it'll pull their website up, and there's all sorts of resources and links as to what they've done, their mission, their vision, their purpose. Same for Created. I know the Pasco one has information on the required signage, the ordinances they've passed. So there's lots of just our websites alone
Yes.
will give you a lot of the information that you need as far as doing your own research and educating yourself. They've done a lot of work to really educate the public and give you the resources and tools to kind of search it out yourself. And we meet once a month, and it is a public meeting. So for those that want to come in person, it's the third Wednesday of each month at 3:30. It's 3:30 to 5. So the public is welcome to come. And we really, we talk about, of course, we have an agenda, and we talk about the things that we have going on and that are coming up, whether it's a webinar or a PSA, or they just published the Tampa Bay Times Parent Initiative.
Sweet.
And so that it was cool. I got to, be a part of that too. So, I'm very honored and grateful to have that survivor seat. And it's not just about me having that seat. I also represent all the other survivors out there. And so that's basically what I wanted to share as far as like the resources I have. There's so many more depending on where you're at, but just getting connected. Even if you get connected with one of us, maybe we're not in your area, but we could help direct you, because we've worked with other states, other cities. Both organizations are very open to the different ways we collaborate with one another, like going back to, we can't do it alone. And that's what I love about especially the Pasco Commission on Human Trafficking, is they have so many different components to the people that sit on that board. It's very diverse, so there's no like one, it's not one track, but it's a collective.
Yes.
So.
I love that. And it's so great. And I think, gosh, this was amazing. And I do want to thank Leanna from Pasco County Commission on Human Trafficking for giving us this opportunity to meet each other and to have this conversation and to share a little bit more with our listeners and with our community on the wisdom that it takes that goes along with human trafficking, and then also the things that we can do as individuals to do our part. And again, I just appreciate you being here, Laura. Thank you so much for sharing your purpose and your story with us. And I look forward to staying in touch with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Happy Girl podcast. And if you want to reference this episode and so much more, ladies, head on over to happygirlpodcast.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey there. Are you thinking of starting a podcast? Have you created a podcast already and just not sure where to upload all of your episodes to? Well, I want to share Libsyn with you. That's where I upload all of my episodes to get out onto all of those platforms like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, iTunes, and so much more. They have such a great support team, and they're very user-friendly. I want to give you the opportunity to take advantage of a month plus free by heading over to Libsyn.com and entering code HAPPY. There's plans and prices for everyone depending on your messaging and your audience. So head on over to Libsyn, that's LIBSYN.com, enter code HAPPY, and get a month plus free. Happy podcasting. I'm over here giving you the biggest virtual hug because you just finished another episode of the Happy Girl podcast. Wow. Did that just go by way too fast? If you want more, head over to happygirlpodcast.com for show notes and discount codes from all of the sponsors. And if you're looking for a tribe of women just like you to bounce ideas and ask questions, be sure to join my exclusive community on Facebook. The link is waiting for you at happygirlpodcast.com.